Video games. We've come so far since its inception. We've gone from pixeled spaceships to, oh my god, Aloy has Peach Fuzz? As a whole, it's gone from a tiny excursion to the Boardwalk Arcade to the only thing people ever do with their lives. And there's good reason for that. There's been innovation across the board, the creation of different genres, the rise of console fanboys. Alright, that one sucks, but you get the idea. But also through this innovation, there comes some caveats. Now, the gaming industry today has a lot of problems that have been beaten to death, like rushed out titles.
It's not how you launch, it's what it becomes.
By Argus, who told you that?
Greedy monetization methods, horrible working conditions, and just overall laziness when it comes to annual releases. But these are not what I'm talking about today. What I'm referring to has caused me to reflect on where we currently stand and remember where we came from, all of which leads back to the most important thing in gaming. One small but very impactful little word that seems to have been lowered on the totem pole of priority: gameplay. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, ZD boy, of course gameplay is the most important thing. We haven't stopped caring about it. You think we don't know that? Oh, believe me, I know that. You know that. But why doesn't the industry seem to know that? In the AAA space, specifically games with a single-player focus, we seem to have entered a space where developers and also review outlets have been placing an increased emphasis on graphics and overall production, rather than making sure the games themselves are actually fun to play. And with the introduction of Unreal Engine 5, it looks like it's going to continue to be a major focus for games. Now, I wouldn't be worried about this if there was a proven track record of importance with gameplay, but lately there's been a move towards creating a completely immersive and cinematic experience that always seems to come at the expense of consistent and engaging gameplay. This isn't the case for all games that take this approach, but it's prevalent enough to warrant some concern. But why is gameplay such an important function, and how do developers seem to be neglecting it for other aspects? Well, let's find out, shall we? So strap in, boys and girls, and let's get down to business. What is the name of the things we play? Video games. What's the key part in this? Games. This is what we came here for. The video part comes later. When you are developing a game, you have one question that you need to answer. What do you have for me to play? This is the question that made us take those excursions to the Boardwalk Arcade. Galaga and Pac-Man didn't have deep, intricate stories and expansive characters with lore with great graphics. Bro, they were pixels. But they were fun as hell. They gave us that dopamine rush that kept us putting quarters in the machine and scared us to death at the thoughts of our mothers coming over and stopping us because, oh my god, I just ripped a man's head off! That felt great? I'm so getting grounded for this. Take more modern franchises. Halo, Mass Effect, Dark Souls, Super Mario, Legend of Zelda, Call of Duty. Why are these franchises among the most beloved in the history of gaming? Because every single one of them have engaging gameplay, and more importantly, they're fun. You can sit down and play every one of these games and just lose yourself for hours because you are locked in and have total control of amazing game mechanics, and are transported to a world where you can do these insane things you can't do in real life, like killing Ornstein and Smo. That, and you get to listen to dying elites. These games all have stories, but before you can even care about the story, you need a grasp on what you're going to be doing for hours of your life, and the amount of fun you're having dictates your attitude towards the rest of the experience. This is how video games differ from movies, because a movie is an experience you sit down and watch as they take you on this ride. But in video games, you control the ride. You set goals for yourself as simple as jump from one platform to the next, decipher this puzzle, murder this poor grunt. And when you accomplish said goal yourself, that is where the satisfaction comes in. Why do you think Nintendo has been able to remain a pillar of the gaming industry for so long? Because their entire philosophy centers around this one concept of fun gameplay. That, and their legal team is bloodthirsty. Which one of their franchises, besides Fire Emblem, provide deep, intricate stories that you remember for years to come? I'll give you a few seconds to think of the Smash roster.
Okay, time's up.
You probably can come up with one, maybe two, but that's not what you play Nintendo games for. You play it to have a good time. That's the way it's always been. Every genre of game provides a means of having fun, even if it's not just straight up action. Turn-based games like old Final Fantasies or Persona give you choices on what action each character gets to take. Horror games should have you constantly on edge because holy shit, it's Mr. X, run, 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 run! Now each of us have our own preferences on what we find fun. Not everything's going to be to our taste. I myself have games that other people like but I'm bored by, and I'm sure there's a game that I like that other people just can't get into. But at the end of the day, each developer's job should be to let the player engage at every single opportunity and structure it in a way where they have a good time engaging with the mechanics that you yourself take pride in. I mean, you gotta have pride in your work. Why else would you put up with your coworkers stealing your breast milk? Now, like I said, gaming has evolved. A game like Pac-Man wouldn't fly today because it's not nearly enough, which is where everything else comes in. Interesting stories, great presentation, great graphics, but before you can even think of building upon the experience, you have to create the experience. You need to create the gameplay. A perfect example of this is the roguelike genre. Games like Hades, Vampire Survivor, Returnal, all of these games are incredibly frustrating. If you die, you have to go all the way back to the beginning of the game and redo everything over and over and over again. The layout changes, but you're still following similar paths. But every single one of these games is addicting. These are the best examples of great gameplay on display, because when you're playing one of these games, the controls are simple, it's fast-paced, you can take on hordes of enemies and kill them with a single hit. This is the genre of game where having amazing gameplay is not only a priority, it's a damn necessity. They have no choice but to be addicting, because why else is someone going to want to replay the same areas over and over and over again? Because you're invested in the story of Zagreus? No, because this attack just took out 5 guys at once. I want to do it again. Now that we're done with that, let's make a simplistic story about family relations and cap it off with a gorgeous art style. There you go. Take any big budget AAA game today, take out its cutscenes, and make it so that every time you die, you have to start back at the beginning. Let's see how well your gameplay holds up then. Now, am I saying that every game has to have roguelike combat? No, absolutely not. But your gameplay should give people that exact same feeling of fun and engagement and make them want to come back for more, no matter what genre you're dealing with. As soon as you nail down that part, then you can take me on your journey and present me with everything else. But until you have step 1 completed, all due respect, but f*** your journey. So gameplay is great, we all love it, that much we know. Now let's talk about what developers seem to love. Presentation. Specifically, the #1 body pillow for the AAA space right now. Graphics. AKA, wow, Mads Mikkelsen's face is so realistic! I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. You wanna hear? Okay, come here. Nobody cares about graphics! We as gamers are not going to GameStop, Best Buy, Target, or wherever to pick up a game because of how great the grass looks, or how detailed Saga Anderson's face is. This isn't an art gallery, this is a shooting gallery, aka we're here to do things. Now as a developer, it's always important to have the best graphics you can possibly have. I mean, I guess unless you're Bethesda. But the mistake you run into is where making the graphics realistic becomes more of a priority for developers over the actual important things. And this has been a point of contention for years, even dating back to the dawn of the PS4 and Xbox One. Remember the Order 1886? No? Don't worry, you're not alone. For those of you that do, remember how great this game looked when it was being shown off in trailers? The graphics looked incredible. The cool setting of being a modern Knight of the Round Table in this desolate London aesthetic. This was one of the showcase titles for the PS4 when it came out, and people, including me, got hype as hell. And then we played it. And, I hope you like QTEs. You see this a lot now, where developers will have trailers that show off how amazing their game looks, how detailed their character models are, and the environments around them, which if they look as great as they do, I would also be showing it off. But creating graphics like these no doubt takes a lot of time. Time spent away from creating cool game mechanics or refining them to perfection. You notice how in most of my videos I barely touch on graphics. I say either it looks good or it looks bad, and that's it. That's because there's a whole lot of other things that gamers care about that are more important to them. Like, how fun is the game? The only way graphics impact the way someone views a game is if they're so good they elevate an already great experience, or so bad that it brings everything down.
Rise, you oogly.
Here's another example of this. Horizon, specifically Forbidden West. Now, this might anger a lot of people, but I've personally never liked the gameplay in Horizon. I feel like it's too slow. Having to pull a bow back and wait before firing just feels sluggish to me. Having that as your main attack in combat just gets monotonous, but maybe that's just me. And that's definitely the way you swing a spear. I also feel like the open world kind of feels drab and empty without a lot of interesting things to do. But what nobody can deny is that this is one of the best looking games ever created. Plus the dialogue movements are fully choreographed, so it looks completely natural and realistic. So what this tells me, playing the game, is that this is what Guerrilla Games placed their focus on. No pun intended. The way the game looks was prioritized over the way the game plays, including the story, which is something you never see from PlayStation Studios games. But if you really want to perfect this realistic style that Forbidden West has, that's where the majority of your development time is going to go. Not on making engaging combat or an interesting world, which is what we all purchased Horizon Forbidden West for. And then Elden Ring came out a week later, which was the complete opposite of Horizon Forbidden West. Gameplay focused, mesmerizing world, cryptic story, graphics weren't realistic, just made to enhance the art style. Try to guess which game was better. You see what I'm saying? Graphics should not be the focal point for your video game. It's something you have to address, no doubt, but if you're spending more time on trying to get the freckles on Aloy's face right, rather than putting interesting things into your massive open world, then guess what? All that work you did making the game look great is not gonna matter, because nobody is going to play it for long. I know I'm picking on Horizon here, but this goes for any game in any genre, because if you had only one choice, you can have your game be fun or have it look realistic. I think we all know which one we would prefer. But graphics is only a piece of the presentation pie. I think it's time we discuss a certain presentation pie. A pie that has been growing in prominence for the last decade or so. That being what everyone likes to call movie games, or as I like to call it, cinematic narrative experiences. What do I mean by that? Well, if you've played any PlayStation Studios game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. These are games that have pristine presentation, the pinnacle of the industry in fact. They have cinema quality production, photorealistic characters, expertly shot action sequences. They are the closest thing that video games get to being a full movie. The thing is, that's the problem. Too often with games like these, it feels like the gameplay is just there to service the cutscenes and story. Now for this, I'm going to keep referring to PlayStation Studios games and other Sony exclusives for reference because they are the biggest proponents of cinematic narrative experiences. Games like God of War, The Last of Us, Spider-Man, Ratchet & Clank, and other franchises such as that. Now, I'm not about to sit here and say these games are bad. That would be stupid of me. In fact, I think they're great games. But let's be honest, it's hard to play these games and not think at least once, okay, I think these people just really want to make movies. And that's because when you play them, the gameplay is largely pretty basic. Not bad, it's engaging enough to keep you invested, but you can see that there is a clear discrepancy in quality between it and the presentation. Now, I've said this in a past video, but I feel like Spider-Man has actually had the best balance between gameplay and presentation out of any of PlayStation's titles, because the core gameplay loop of web swinging around the city and its pinball-like combat system is freaking great and unique, while also telling a good story that's shot well. There's still problems with pointless on-rails sections that are just there because, oh crap, we really want to tell this part of the story, but this cutscene's long enough as it is. Here, just have Peter take some free throws. But aside from that, that's an example of a good cinematic narrative experience. But overall, when you look at some of these games and the way they're structured, its purpose is not to invest you with its gameplay, but with story and atmosphere. Or they could just take the easy route of simply beating you over the head with cutscenes. Enter Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. This was my reaction when I first played this game. Oh my god, this game looks so great! Can I play it now? It felt like there was 2 minutes of gameplay followed by 3 minutes of cutscene. Both were great, no doubt, but being constantly halted in your tracks never gave you the chance to really get into a rhythm because the game was constantly taking control away from you. Even if you were to line up the runtime between both and playtime ends up being longer, if you as a gamer even feel like you're spending more time watching than playing, that's a problem. At that point, you aren't a video game, and you belong on Netflix. These games also present you with a deep, compelling story with fleshed out characters that's shot extremely well. Like I said earlier, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. We all want good stories in video games. But remember the question I posed earlier that developers have to answer. What do you have for me to play? Not, what do you have for me to watch? Making your game as cinematic as you can with as deep stories as you can write up is not the problem. What is a problem is the heavy reliance on it. The urge to constantly prove that you can rival something like Scorsese or have action sequences on the level of Mission Impossible. When that becomes your mindset, you lose sight of what gamers actually care about. And that is, altogether, 1, 2, 3, gameplay. Or you can end up with the worst case scenario, where your presentation and atmosphere is so meticulously crafted, but actually playing it is a chore. Enter everyone's favorite game. Oh boy. Death Stranding. Or as I like to call it, all bark, but no bite. Everyone has the exact same reaction when looking at Death Stranding's presentation. There is no doubt to that. And it's the only reason people even get hyped for its sequel. Everything looks pristine. The creepy atmosphere and cryptic Kojima story, coupled with amazing graphics and top-tier performances from A-list actors. I mean, people were intrigued right from the start. What is this game? No, seriously, what is this game? What am I going to be doing? Wait, I'm going to be walking across the map to deliver packages? And I have to balance them without falling on my face? Are you kidding me? All this production value, all the money that went into paying these actors, and this is what you have for me to play? A walking simulator? Do you need any more evidence that this is where all the money for development went? No wonder they had so much monster product placement. They needed more money to pay these actors. But oh my god, Norman Reedus' tears have ray tracing! Let me tell you something. If I wanted to watch Norman Reedus cry, I'd go watch The Walking Dead. I'm playing a video game, and the game part sucks. No amount of presentation is going to cover that up. I don't care if the story gets good 15 hours in. I'm playing right now, and I want to jump off a cliff. All right, bring it back. Get control. Okay. But overall, the general problem with making cinematic narrative experiences reverts back to earlier when I discussed the difference between video games and movies. Movies are an experience that takes you on a ride, while video games let you control the ride. The more you want to make your video game like a movie, the more control you have to take away from the player. And the more control you take away from the player, the less immersive your game becomes, because you're trying to emulate a different form of media. And if your gameplay is not fun and addicting enough to compensate for that, or your world is not filled with interesting things to do and experience, then why the hell are you wasting my time?
I am profoundly unimpressed.
Nowadays, we're dropping $70 on these games. Movie tickets are around $15. Why would I pay $55 more to do the same thing I can do for $55 less? The answer? Your game is fun to play. Now it's your job to make that statement true before you start imitating Scorsese. Otherwise, just go apply for a job at Hollywood. The good news for you? There's a writer's strike going on, so you won't get a better chance than this. So, to wrap things up, the reason why I made this video is because I just want to caution not only developers, but gamers alike on the road that we're currently heading down. When we talk about the great gaming disconnect, it's not a major problem that brings us to DEFCON 1 as of now, but we are showing more and more signs of it every single day. And I think it's important that we catch ourselves now before we all fall into this trap of making our games something they were never meant to be. Now, like I said, I don't think having excellent graphics is a bad thing. Obviously. And I also don't think cinematic narrative experiences are bad. I mean, there's a reason why there's so many of them that win Game of the Year. Some of my favorite games of all time have been ones that I would describe as cinematic narrative experiences. But as we advance in the video game industry, it's important to remember that no matter how much you may want to replicate violence in movies and sex on TV, you still can't forget those good old-fashioned values upon which we used to rely. Gamers want to play a fun and engaging video game, and things like stories and presentation should serve to complement the experience, not overtake it. And if it happens to be better and become more iconic than the gameplay, then congratulations, we are all better for it. But like I said, you need to bake your cake before you apply the icing. You need to have good gameplay before you have good presentation. And it's important that we as a whole never lose sight of that. Because as a wise man once said, if it's not fun, why bother? So thank you guys so much for watching all the way through. If you have, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, because once again, I am a madman. I know this is a topic that's been coming up a lot lately, and thought I'd give my 2 cents about it because I've been feeling the exact same way, and hope you guys took something out of this. If you disagree with me, great. Let me know in the comments. I want to hear it. Other than that, drop a like on the video, smash that subscribe button, because ZD Boy is the only place to get content this damn good. Alright everybody, thank you so much again, and I'll see you guys next time.